So good morning, everyone. Good morning from Greece, from Athens. I would like to welcome all of you to this beautiful session that we plan together with the European University Athena and the Hellenic Mediterranean University, the International Relations Office of the Hellenic Mediterranean University. It's a great event. We celebrate today the Women's Day, which is a global celebrating the social, economic, and cultural and political achievement of women. And we don't want just to celebrate, but we would like this kind of event to be an initiative in HMU and also within the European University Athena of actions that we should follow in order to gap this gender balance within sciences. So I would like to thank all the panelists that we have together with us. Associate Professor Anne De Luis from the University of Orleans, Assistant Professor Evangelia Triandafilou from Aalborg University in Denmark, Associate Professor Nava Seikte from Holon Institute of Technology in Israel, Professor Tatiana Druzovets from University of Maryborg, Slovenia, Professor Katerina Hadzaki from the Medical School of Democritus University and also member of our new established research center in Hellenic Mediterranean University, Professor Katerina Hadzaki, Professor Monica Lira, a group leader in the Catalan Institute of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology in Spain, Professor Ellen Moons from Karlstad University in Sweden, and also Associate Professor Lauren Scott from the Universidad Complutense de Madrid, Spain. I would like also to thank the people in the International Relations Office in the Hellenic Mediterranean University, Dr. Clio Kutra, Miss Gloria Vega, our students George Saltakis and Nicolas Bolanakis, and all the attendees, because without you, let me admit people, without you, and without the Q&A session, nothing can be done. So we are going to start very fast to the first speakers we're going to have, and it's a great honor for us that our rector, beyond that supports all our actions within the Athena European University, he will welcome all the attendees and the panelists on this event. And also, Professor Nuno Escudeiro, this is Professor Katsarakis, is our rector, Professor Nuno Escudeiro, the coordinator of the Athena European University. So the floor is to Professor Nikolaos Katsarakis, rector of the Hellenic Mediterranean University. Thank you very much, Nikolaos, dear rector, for your participation.
Thank you very much, Kostas. Good morning to everyone. What a great event on this day, on the Women's Day 2021, to organize together with the European University Athena. Thank you very much, Nuno. This event, this webinar concerning women in science. It is a great pleasure to welcome all of you, the attendees, the panelists, all of you to this webinar, which highlights the need to point out all the inequalities, the gender inequalities that are still present in our countries and also in science. Greece, I think, as more of the countries, as all of the countries, is still a patriarchal society. And although in the last decades we have made a few but continuous steps, improvements on gender equality, there is still a lot to be done. In science, of course, there are still many gender inequalities that are clear to all of us. So it is clear, and at the same time it is sad to see that the representation of women becomes smaller in science as we move from the bachelor degree to the master degree to the PhD and to the researchers and academic staff. This is a fact for all the European countries, and I think for all the countries all over the world. And of course, we have differences, we have even stronger inequalities, gender inequalities, and a clear representation gap concerning women as we move to the so-called STEM sciences. So I think it is a great chance today with our distinguished panelists, all these scientists that have a great career in science, to discuss all these topics and to see how we move on and how we will try to solve these problems. With these few words, I would like to welcome you again to this webinar. I would like to thank both Athena University and our very active IRO office in Hellenic Mediterranean University. I would like to thank the staff of our IRO office in HMU, and I would like to wish a very good success to this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Rector. Thank you very much, Nikos, for this welcome talk. I have to say that we should thank all the HMU female scientists that they gave us and triggered us the idea in order to launch such an event, and not only within HMU, but also within the Athena. So now I would like to give the floor to Professor Nuno Escudeiro, the Athena academic coordinator. So Nuno, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kostas. Good morning and welcome to Women in Science. We are in fact very pleased to host such an event at Athena, given the relevance of this topic to our values and intents. Athena ambitions to develop inclusive higher education for the digitalization of society is very much connected, of course, to STEM and research in these fields. Inclusion here is seen as a mindset, an attitude to permanently search and settle ways to assure that all our students and staff, including here academic staff and administrative staff, meet at Athena the conditions they need to succeed and progress. We need in general to eliminate gender stereotypes crystallized in our society, placing females in opposition to males, promoting dualism and binary positions while underestimating the social dimension of gender identities. We need to better reflect societies as a whole, foster unity in diversity, deconstruct any prejudice that still limits women's freedom in choosing their professional path. An open and uninhibited university uniting the contributions from all becomes more effective, generating greater impacts in research, education, and service to the society and the economy. We hope that in the near future, gender balance will no longer be an issue. At Athena, we are working to make this real, and this event is one more step in this direction, and we are very enthusiastic with this initiative and the possibility to continue working in these topics from here on a regular basis, as was already suggested by our panelists today. In the name of Athena, let me thank the Hellenic Mediterranean University and in particular, and I'm sorry if I'm missing anyone, in particular the deep involvement of Kostas for the organization of this event. Let me thank our panelists for their enthusiasm and availability, all the participants for joining and sharing with us these moments that I am sure will motivate us to drive a more transparent society based on meritocracy while fighting discrimination. Thank you. I hope you will enjoy Human in Science as much as we are already enjoying it.
Thank you very much, Nuno. Let's thank all the International Relations Office of the Hellenic Mediterranean University for this organization, and also the participants and the panelists, as I said at the beginning. So how are we going to proceed now with the roundtable discussion? We have distributed to our panelists some questions in order, for the sake of the time, and also in order to facilitate their message. I'm going to start the questions that we are going to discuss are the following: challenges for a female scientist from the bachelor level to an academic position. This is question 1. The question 2 refers to proposals to academic institutions to facilitate the career of a female scientist. Question number 3, suggestions to the government to facilitate the career of a female scientist. And question 4, let me also accept the people. Question 4, advise a young female student interested in following an academic and professional career. And question number 5, advise a young male student and a junior academic and professional colleague to behave fairly to female students and colleagues. I will start to ask our panelists, starting geographically from the north to the south to the west side of Europe, and then I will move to the east. I will, of course, ask, by names, our panelists to speak. And if any of our panelists would like to add her opinion on the question that we are reporting, the panelists that initially the question has been assigned, please feel free to do it. Then, after we will finish with our panelists, each one of the panelists has just 5 minutes, not more than 5 minutes, to reply to the question, one of these questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we will move to a presentation from our colleague from UCM from Spain regarding the presentation and the impact of the creation of the gender equality unit in their universities, and how this unit and this service has helped the females colleagues and scientists to have an easier professional development, because we should not forget that a female scientist has a dual role. After many hours in the laboratory teaching activities, she has to go back to her house also for family obligations like kids, husband, and other kind of obligations that probably they are involved in their daily life. So it has a very difficult task, and we would like to check out, starting from this webinar, this roundtable discussion, to act and in the future, in the immediate future, in order to correct and facilitate, especially within the HMU or within the Athena, the career and the pathways of our female colleagues. So after this, please feel free. I will send to write down your questions in the chat, or during the Q&A session. You can unmute your microphone after you raise this virtual hand that is available next to the reactions in the Zoom platform. During the Q&A session, you can raise your hand, and then you can report on, and you can ask the question directly to one of the panelists. So we are starting with question number 1. The question number 1 has been assigned initially to Professor Ellen Muntz from Calsans University, Professor Monica Lira from ICN2 in Barcelona, Spain, and also to Anne de Luis from University of Orleans. But before we will start with this, I will follow the same link, the same way, in order to introduce yourself to the attendees. So I'm starting from the north, and I would like to ask Professor Muntz to present herself to our attendees. Please, Ellen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kostas, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, inviting me for this unusual event. I'm very happy to be with you. My name is Ellen Muntz. I'm a physicist. I'm a professor in physics at Karlstad University in Sweden. My research area has to do with materials for solar energy. I'm married and I have 1 daughter. Originally I come from Belgium. I studied physics in Belgium, and after that I went to do the PhD in Israel. Then I did postdocs at several places, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and Cambridge in the UK. After that, I went to industry for a short while. at CDT in Cambridge and came in the year 2000 to Sweden to take up a position at Karlstad University. So this was a short introduction of me. I think I should not make it longer to give time for the others to speak as well.
Thank you very much, Ellen. And then we moved a little bit to the south, which is Denmark, if you know my geographical knowledge is correct. And then I would like to give the floor to Dr. Triandafylou, Evangelia Triandafylou, to introduce herself to our attendees.
Thank you very much, Kostas, and thank you very much to all of you for this kind invitation. I'm very honored to be with you today. I'm educated as electrical and computer engineer from Greece. Then I did a postmaster degree on engineering design in the Eindhoven University of Technology in the Netherlands. And after that, I started a PhD, which I quitted actually in order to prioritize family at that point. So at that point, I had my first 3 children, and I did some part-time jobs, etc. And then 9 years ago, I moved to Denmark, and there I started a PhD from scratch. And I finished in 2015 a PhD on technology for learning. And I'm currently employed at the same department at Aalborg University in Copenhagen as assistant professor. And I moved to Denmark with my husband and now our 4 kids, because on the way, while in Denmark, we got also the 4th one. Yes, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Evangelia. You can see that we can combine academic career with family issues, and Evangelia is an excellent exam as all our panelists. So let's move a little bit south to France, to dear Anne. Anne is a vice rector in the University of Orleans. So Anne, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm really honored to be part of this panel. So thank you, HMU and Athena, for organizing this. It's a very important topic we are discussing today, and I'm looking forward to everybody's contributions and questions. So my full name is Anne Friederike de Louis. I've got 2 nationalities, as the name indicates, German and French, and I've got 3 children, which I usually don't mention, and I present myself in a professional context, but I think today this is part of our topic. So 3 children that we raise in the 2 languages and 2 cultural contexts. And I'm I'm the odd one out because I'm not in natural science, I'm in social science. I'm associate professor in social anthropology, and as Costa says, vice rector of the University for International Relations. And just very briefly, so I started my studies in Germany, in the southwest, Tübingen, very nice university town. And then I moved to Sorbonne University in Paris. That was at the beginning of the Erasmus program, well, at mid-1990s. So. And from there I moved on to Cambridge for a master and a PhD in social anthropology. So I studied actually history and social anthropology. I'm interested in the history of human behavior and perception. So that's at the intersection of both. I had a job as a postdoctoral researcher at King's College London for 3 years. And then, like Evangelia, I prioritized family for 2 years, and that happened in one of the nicest places for that possible, in Greece, in Athens. So I was in Athens for 2 years, but without any university affiliation. And then I worked my way back into academia in France. And now I just started my 2nd mandate as vice rector for international relations, as I said, especially with our European partners, and that involves also constructing this wonderful project that we have, the European University, Athena. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne, for this. As you have realized, we have Anne within the Athena in order to study all of us, our behavior, and how do we behave and how we can improve our behavior. So thank you very much. And then we move to north of Spain in Barcelona. I'm very glad that we have with us Monica Lira, Professor Lira, part of a very active scientist, as all our panelists. Also, she's very, how can I say, sensitive to all these kind of initiatives, and already she has taken a lot of initiations regarding the gender balance within the sciences. So Professor Monica Lira Candu, the floor is yours.
Kostas, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you for the invitation. I think it's very important for us to, I hope that we can invite more female young scientists to join these careers in science that are so interesting. So my name is Monica Lira. I am a chemist. I'm originally from Mexico, and I came to Barcelona 27 years ago. It's a long time, to start my PhD. And after my PhD, I went to United States to work for ExxonMobil for 3 years. But I came back to Spain because my husband was living here in Barcelona, so we decided to live here in Spain. And after that, I have been having different contracts and different positions in Spain. I have been visiting scientists in different countries, in different research laboratories, like in Japan, Denmark, Norway. The last one was in Switzerland. Since 2008, more or less, I am permanent. I have a permanent position. I don't belong to a university. I belong to the to research. I have always belonged to research centers, not to a university. And right now, I am a group leader at the Catalan Institute of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology, and I am the I direct the group on. It's called Nanostructured Materials for Photovoltaic Energy. So we work with photovoltaics for more than 15 years, okay? And for me, this is all. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much, Kostas.
Thank you very much, Monica, for your kindness to be with us. And then let's move to Slovenia. I mean, we're moving to the south now, starting from the north. We're very happy to have with us Professor Tatiana Belzer from University of Maryborg, also a partner in the University of the European University, Athena. Please, Tatiana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kostas, and thank you, first of all, for this great event and for the invitation. It is really my honor to be a part of this panel, which is very important, not only for us as a panelist, but for the public and especially for the future, for our younger colleagues that are following our steps and are going towards their goals. My goals started in Maribor at primary and secondary school, where I make a decision to go towards mathematics, but then I changed to electrical engineering and then to informatics. And today I'm working as a full professor at the University of Maribor, Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, as a head of database technology lab at the Institute of Informatics. So most of the time I was dealing with STEAM in different periods of my life that motivated me for all this work that finished then internationally in different international projects from the Erasmus Plus program up to Horizon 2020 and finally the Athena European University, in the frame of which we are together today. My fields of work are not only in technique, as Anne said before, I'm also active in the field of cross-cultural communication and media communication, the institute that I used to be head in the past, but otherwise my research field nowadays is very strong connected to the security. Thanks once again for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. And I would like to highlight, this is one of the events that the European University Athena organizes within the framework of celebrations of the Women's Day. More events, they will come, and some of these events, one of these events is going to be organized by University of Maribor and Professor Belzer. we are going to inform you and update you about these actions. So let's move now to Greece, to Alexandroupoli or in Heraklion. I don't know where now Professor Hadzaki is. Katerina is a great friend, and also it's a great pleasure to have her with us. Comes from the medicine sector, medical sector. So the floor is yours, Katerina, in order to introduce yourself to our attendees. Thank you very much. Katerina, you're muted.
Good morning. I come originally from Crete. As Kostas said, I decided to become a biologist early on. I had a very clear idea about what I wanted to do, although nobody in my family was in the field of life science. I have to say that I come from a family that has an academic orientation. My sister is also an academic. I have two siblings and I'm the older sister, the older daughter in the family. I went to Athens, I studied biology, and then I moved to London to become a clinical embryologist, although soon I realized that this wasn't what I was. This wasn't suited for me, so I turned into academia and I did my PhD there, which I finished very quickly. So I was very young when I moved back to Crete, aiming to get an academic position in the University of Crete. 5 years later, I realized that I failed there, so I made the big decision to move to San Diego in California, where I work in the industry, and I did my postdoc there in a very nice environment. While I was there, I got elected in the medical school of the Democritus University in Alexandroupoli. For those of you that are not Greek, this is at the very far end, the different end, very north, as far from Crete as you can possibly be in Crete. So I decided to go there, although at the time, being from the south, I have never visited the north of Greece ever. So when I went there, I didn't know, I only knew Alexandroupoli from the map. So I entered that faculty there. I was the youngest member of faculty. I was one of the very few women there. I mean, the typical colleague of mine was a medical doctor, much older than me, and male. So I opened my path there. I moved from one step to another, and I became full professor just 5 years ago. Again, I think the youngest and one of the very few full professors in my faculty. So you probably share this with me. We don't often talk about ourselves. We usually talk about our work. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity today to make me think about my career and my career steps. I feel that I have done well, but thinking about what I have to say today made me think about how I could have done better and where were my mistakes, so I can tell to the younger people not to make these mistakes. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity today to think about all these things and being here with you.
Thank you very much, Katerina, for the nice wording, and we are looking forward for your position. And then let's move to our final panelists from Israel, from Holon, from the Holon Institute of Technology, Dr. Nava Seit, an associate professor in Holon Institute of Technology and also head of the multidisciplinary department in Holon Institute of Technology. So Nava, I'm not going to name you with your nickname. This is a secret between me and you, and the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Kostas. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very important event. As you've seen all the wonderful women before me, we all come from different areas, but what we have in common is really our ambitions and our that we are not afraid to dream and to live our dreams. And this is very important. I'm sure it will come in the discussion. So I'm Nava Shaked. I'm born and raised in Tel Aviv, Israel. I had a normal childhood. At 18, as everybody in Israel, I went to the army, and after that I started my school, and I wanted to be a linguist. And on my third year, just before I finished my linguistic degree, everything was planned for me. And then I heard a lecture by a Swedish scientist who talked about, this is 1987, talked about computers that understand language. And I had a eureka, and I said, this is what I want to do. I want to design computers who understand language. And so I went to New York at the age of 25 and with a husband, and then had a child in New York while doing a direct PhD in computational linguistics, an area of artificial intelligence. At that time, nobody knew what it really meant. So I started my career there in R&D, working for Bell Labs and then IBM Research Lab. And when I came back to Israel after 6 years, I said, there's no way I'm continuing in academia. I'm going to work in industry. These were the first days of high tech in Israel and in the world as all, 94. And we started to work in high tech, and it was wonderful. And for 20 years, I built systems, and I enjoyed really to be one of the first computational linguists that actually had a job. And it was a real thrill. And then 8 years ago, I joined HIT, and I joined the engineering and computer science faculties as a lecturer. And I had a dream. I had a dream to establish a place, an academic venue where multidisciplinary studies can exist, where people from design can meet people from engineering, can meet people from industrial management, work together, do projects together, create a lingo together. And I'm proud to say that 3 years ago, we established the first multidisciplinary department in Israel, and there are very few in the world. We have a great curriculum of over 100 courses, which we teach a year, 45 teachers and 4,500 students per year. Now, this is because the institution made a decision to make it mandatory for each student to study also multidisciplinary studies. And the importance is that in these studies, they meet people they haven't met before, including working in multi-gender teams. So I come to you today with all these great ideas, which I think we need to share, and I encourage us to keep this conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nava, for this introduction and for your contribution to our event. So let's start with the questions now to our panelists. We're going to start with
Costa, can I have one more second, because I didn't say something that is very important. I'm a mother, I'm married, and I'm a mother of a 10-year-old daughter. And this behind me is my team, which I'm very proud of it. And you can see that I'm not promoting gender equality in my team at all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Katerina. I would like to add as well that in my home, my life role model is my wife for me. So I totally believe, you know, I believe that females are smarter than us, and they can do much more things, and we should facilitate their role within the academy. So let's start with the question number 1. Challenges for a female scientist from the bachelor level to an academic position. And the figures, and according to a Boston Consulting Group 2016 survey, showed that a great drop-off of female scientists as they move from the bachelor to a PhD level to high academic positions regarding the female participation, and the gender gap increases and increases and increases as we move from bachelor level to academic position. So we're going to ask three of our panelists, Professor Munz, Professor Lira, and Professor Deleus. We're going to ask them what are the challenges that they face, or what are the challenges females face during this elevation, during this professional development. So I'm going to start again from the north, and I would like to ask Ellen Munz, what are the challenges for a female scientist from the bachelor level to an academic position? So the floor is yours, Ellen.
Yes, thank you. I think, of course, there are many challenges that we share also with male colleagues. But let's talk about maybe some that are a bit more specific for us females. So you asked us to talk about from the bachelor upwards. So in the early years, I think the main challenge has to do with that we are a minority. Usually in science, there are less female students, PhD students, etc., than male, which means that the environment is different from what we used to. Not always bad, but sometimes not so inclusive, sometimes not so friendly. But that's not always the case. I personally did not experience such a bad environment, I must say, during my studies and even my PhD. But we're always expected to be nice and to be strong. And we don't always want to be nice and strong. Sometimes we want to be a bit of a troublemaker, but we are not expected to be a troublemaker at all. That's one challenge. So then if we climb up a little bit more towards the PhD and these years, I think we heard many of the panelists say something about family building. So then the big challenge is how to balance life and your professional life. Building a family takes time and requires a special role from the woman. Of course, the question is very much in what society, in what country, and what norms you are doing this. So the societal expectations of the woman in the role of the family it can be different. In my particular case, I chose to do a PhD, and I left my country. I went to Israel as a 23-year-old and started a PhD at the Weizmann Institute. I was living there for 5 years. This was definitely a choice that impacted my choice of building a family, or my possibilities of building a family. In my particular case, I waited to build a family until much after the PhD. And that also means that it's a kind of sacrifice in the sense that I get my daughter quite late in life. So that's the second challenge. I would say the third challenge has to do with the academic position now. When you have a position and you have your colleagues and all that, you're still in a minority, even much more than before. And now you have to deal with a few other things. In my particular case, I would say the biggest challenge is to deal with jealousy of colleagues, especially if things are going well. So if you're successful, you can hear things like, yes, but you're successful because you're a woman. It's because you have advantages, it's because you have privileges as a woman. Getting funding, this and that, all these kind of things you have to hear. Okay, so this means you have to work even harder, you have to compete even more than you already had to before. The second thing is that apart from having to compete and having to work hard and successful, you have to do all the rest as well. And now I'm not so much thinking about housework because I'm living in Sweden where things are shared. I'm very lucky in that sense to have a husband who shares a lot of the homework and who takes the equal responsibilities for the family. But I know that's not always the case in other places. But I'm thinking about rather that you have to do all the other tasks that have to do with your profession, not only your science and your teaching, but you have to also sit in all these committees. You have to also take up the role of being the gender person, and so on and so on. It never stops. So this leads me to the third thing, which maybe I realize that a little bit specific for the northern countries, because we have these quotes that, for instance, in universities and in other authorities, we have to have a gender balance in committees, for instance, PhD committees or councils, and it has to be at least 40% of each gender. So 40-60 is what is aimed at, which is of course very nice. And I mean, there's a lot of very good things with that. But if you are very few women, then these few women end up doing really a large part of this, much, much more than the male colleagues, which still could be viewed as nice, but it also takes time, and it also takes time away from what your research you want to do, your teaching you want to do. You want to encourage your students to go for studies, for learning more new things and getting an education and become independent thinkers. And all that administrative work, one can say, or other tasks take away time from that, and as well from your family. So these are the challenges I see in my present life and also as a student.
Thank you very much, Ellen. Let's move the questions. The Q&A session will follow after the end of all the questions for our attendees. So let's move to Anne, Professor Anne DeLuise from University of Orleans, to share with us her opinion, her experiences. Anne, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kostas, and very interesting listening to Ellen. I don't have exactly the same perspective, but I relate to a lot of the things that you said. And I like this question because it's a long-term question. And as the rector of HMU said at the beginning, and you said, Kostas, in your introduction, there's this drop-off. And I like this picture of the leaky pipeline, actually. So at the beginning, we have all together, we've got even a majority of female students in undergraduate courses. But I'm talking about France, which is not doing too badly on paper for gender equality right after the Scandinavian countries in theory. So we've got 55% of undergraduate students who are female, but then when you move up the ladder, 45% of PhD students, 25% of professors, full professors, 12% of university rectors. So there's this drop-off, and I'd really like to stop on 3 times on this way up the ladder, and starting with when you're a PhD student. I think there's this common misconception, and it's something we share, I think, between social science and natural science and STEM subjects, and it's the same mechanisms at work everywhere. There's the common misconception that it's good enough to be excellent at your work to succeed. And actually, it's not enough. You also have to do a lot of self-promotion. You have to employ some strategies to go to the right conferences, to write the papers that are needed. You have to have networks. And that's something that perhaps doesn't come so naturally to some female PhD students, because they're more used to work in a team, and I'm not saying at all that that's a natural tendency, but it's something that we learn, lots of us learn when we are children already, perhaps, that we are asking for help and we're giving help and so on. And it's but academia is a world where there's the lone hero and the lone player that really succeeds often. At least it's a battle for the best positions. So that's something And that's perhaps the first roadblock, and you need a good supervisor, you need a good advisor to develop the right strategy. And that's not always a given for all female PhD students, I think. Then moving on, when you've made it to your research contract and perhaps even to tenure, the problem that I see is, or that's something that I experience myself, that actually your value is measured in terms of research output. And it's actually, you can put figures on it. I mean, how many publications in the STEM subjects, you've got the impact factor, so you can put a figure on it. It looks objective, it's not, it's biased in many ways. And of course, that's a problem for parents, because especially mothers, because all this childcare takes time away from your research. And I think it's also something that handicaps other categories of colleagues, even males, people who come from the industry, come from the private sector, and so on. So that's the second thing. And then the third factor, the third stop I want to talk about is leadership roles, actually. So senior researchers, senior management at university. Of course, everyone is different and personality counts. I don't want to generalize. I think generally women are often not doing too badly as leaders. Just look at the pandemic. I mean, some countries led by women didn't do too badly compared to the US, for example, or Brazil. So because it's, well, sometimes we are better at listening to others and caring for the community and not putting our own career on top of all other concerns. So that's the positive side of it. But sadly, I find, well, perhaps more talking about France than other countries, some people still find it difficult to accept that women have authority. And there's generally, I'm not talking so much about myself, but something that I've observed, that there's more scrutiny for female leaders, how they look, but it's certainly not a beauty contest if you're running for some management position. There are always comments, you know, it's subtle things, because people can't admit it openly, but it's comments on how they look and how they dress and how they behave, and if they make little missteps, then there's less forgiveness than for male leaders, I would say, often, not generalizing. So that's about people's acceptance and support. And then in practical terms, now I'm coming to something, and that's my last point, but that Ellen also said, once you take on responsibilities, if it's in your research group or department or faculty or university, it's really expected that you don't count your working hours, and there are always emergencies coming up on weekends, in the evenings, at night sometimes, and in your only week of vacation with your family, always emergencies, and you have to react. So the work-life balance gets even more unbalanced. So that's also perhaps one of the explanations why there are so few women that have responsibilities. And there's always somebody who has to pay the price in the end, because there's this immense workload. And either it's the family, or often it's, I think, the woman herself. You have less time for research, as Alan said, less time for recreation, less time for your self-care and so on. So these are 3 obstacles that I wanted to mention. And well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. We have the best example in the world, the Prime Minister or the President of the New Zealand, regarding as the most successful model, how to face COVID-19 situation in case. So it's a model all over the world, the policies and how fast did she act regarding COVID-19 in New Zealand. She was a female Prime Minister or President, I'm not sure. And also Margaret Thatcher. I mean, it's another example of independent of political views. She was also another example of a very successful female leader. And I will tell you that recently, Harvard Business Review released especially about leadership, how much better are the female leaders compared to male ones. And this has to do with specific characteristics. One of them, empathy, higher degree of empathy that females demonstrate compared to us. So this is also the science backups that female leaders, they are doing much better than males one. So let's go now to Professor Lira in order to, let's say, complete this question, challenges for female scientists from bachelor level to an academic position. Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kostas. I have to say that I agree many things with Ellen and Anne. And I'm going to give my point of view. As you can see, everyone has different point of view depending on what you have to live. In my case, I have been surrounded by a lot of males. In Mexico and Spain, in my environment, there's a lot of males on the photovoltaic area. So there is always in my career have been males. I have had, I don't want to complain, of course, nobody wants to complain, but I have a lot of issues with men. So I've learned some things and I see another ones, and some of them are very nice experiences, some of them are not. And it's true that the older you get, the higher the position, the worse it becomes. The first thing that I saw, first I think things are slowly changing, things are not the same as 10 years ago. I share a cost project with Ellen, for example, and I can see the difference before that we started that project and after, that we include a lot of females, and Ellen was there. And I saw some changes in some of the conference that we, outside our group and everything. So things are changing slowly, but they are changing. But for example, I have seen that we are not evaluated in the equal terms. Never. I mean, I have been evaluated together with men that are like 12 years younger than me, with like 11 points in their impact factor lower than me, and they get the position, for example. And with all the, I was an independent researcher, he was not, and you see that difference. Why? Because the evaluators were male. And I also saw that males have the opportunity, not all of them, of course, I think this can be for men and women, but I see that many men have the opportunity to be supported at younger age than women. Okay, I don't know why is this, but I saw that you can see men being supported at 32, 35 years old, and women are not supported until they are 38, 80 probably. This is my experience, of course, okay? Also, there are studies where they say that we write projects differently, so we are evaluated differently, but why are we evaluated differently? Because there are more men in the power levels than women, okay? So they also, since the beginning of your career, you have like a label, okay? If you are soft, that label follow you for the rest of your career. You cannot take that away. So that's a problem because it will affect your career for the rest of the time. And it's very hard to take that label out of you. So we have to work from the very young stage. I mean, this is, I'm saying this for the young ladies, young scientists that are there, men and women, okay? We have to work from the very young ages. Not now that we have the problems and we see they have the problems, now that we have a position and it's harder. No, now that you are there, when almost everything is equal for men and women, that you are PhD students and more or less you have the same rights, so everything is less complicated. Work with this right from the very bottom, because at the end of your career, you will be collecting all these labels or problems that will be getting bigger and bigger and bigger and will be worse for the end of your career, okay? So work on that now, not later. One more thing is that we have to, there are many actions taken by many associations in order to promote that this equilibrium, okay? So women tend not to be proactive. We tend to be more passive. You have to move. We have to move. We have to talk. We have to be there. We have to be part of this evaluation committees. We have to be part of organization of conferences, and we have to make sure there is always 50-50, men, woman after. For example, I usually don't accept, unless it's something very special, but I usually don't accept to be part of a conference meeting or a organization of a conference if there is only male presence, okay? You have to do things your own, support it this way. Woman 50-50, and then you do it. For example, in our institute, we have to hire, we are 18 groups, and we are only 3 females, okay? We are pushing for women to get in. And we have to be very strong that the next evaluation for a possible junior group leader has to be a female, has to enter a female, okay? Always male and female, but you have to, of course, you have to hire the best, okay? But try to push that we have to equalize that level, okay? So be there, be leader, organize things for women and men, always equal, okay? Speak up, be proactive, and very important for the young ladies, choose the correct partner. That is very important, okay? Choose the correct partner. To have a correct partner that supports you and knows this 50-50 is everything, okay? Usually, if you see the careers of women that have been able to succeed, not all of them, but most of them have a very strong supporter as the partner they have, okay? So for me, this is all, and thank you, Kostas, very much.
Thank you very much, Monica. I just kept some notes of the challenges, like low participation in the committees, challenges in order to balance work-life balance. I mean, your advice is in order to the women, they should be proactive and they should choose the correct partners. Other challenges regarding the minority within STEM, jealous from the male's point of view, more pressure in order to be considered as an excellent. We are going to, I kept some notes, and I can see my colleague Leo Kutra also is keeping hers in order to, during the Q&A session, to discuss. And then now let's move to solutions. Okay, these are, you know, some challenges that our distinguished panelists, they have presented to us. So now question number 2 refers to proposals to the academic institutions to facilitate the career of a female scientist. And we are going to make a comment of what, you know, Professor Monica Lira has mentioned about the committees, and the majority of them, they are males, and probably they are, let's say, biased towards male colleagues than female ones. So I will start now differently. I will start from the south to go to the north. So I will start with Israel. Our panelists for this question is Navasek, Dr. Navasek, Professor Tatiana Belzer, and then I will move to Anne in France. So I will start from the south now. So Nava, the floor is yours for the next 5 minutes.
Okay, so thank you, Kostas. And I would like to answer it. I would like to relate in my answer to the students rather to the staff, because I think it has been discussed now, and I would like to talk about the students and our responsibility towards the female students, okay? I believe that we need to start educate the female students or students in general about this issue as early as possible. Okay, we don't need to even wait to the point that they get into university. We need to start earlier. And what we need to do, in my opinion, and some of these actions we actually do even in HIT, is we need to kind of mentor them into success, or into the right skills. What I've heard from my colleagues that just spoke is about the difficulties and challenges, but I also think that understanding that there are strengths that there are, you know, that the combination, the yin and yang is the important one. Understanding where are the strengths of females, and, you know, this is an important tool for us. And so we need to educate in a way that, first of all, as soon as the students are getting into the program, we should mentor them by faculty members from both genders, not only females mentors, both females and male mentors for the female students, to mentor them into academia life, which is a little bit different from what they know. And also to take these students and bring them back into society, to the earlier children, to the high school students, and have these students mentor them back. This kind of program, which we actually have, is something that will prepare them and lower the stress. This is my opinion. Also about leaders, yes, sometimes female students don't like to lead, but we need to push them into make them leaders of a project, small project, put them as a team leader, okay? This is very important in order for them to get used to this position, to take used to taking responsibility, even if in the beginning they don't really like to do that, but we push them as their mentors, as they're educated, we push them into this position so they know how to behave. We need to empower them, not only by giving them the female example, but putting them together in teams with other students so they can work together and experience the feeling. And thirdly, I do believe, coming from many years in industry, that it's very important for us from an early stage to educate women while they are still in school, how to behave in industry, how to be successful in industry. It is as important as training them for academic life. Because, and again, from my personal, I tell you, I was lucky because I always worked in American companies. In American companies, gender balance is a credo, is a mission. So really, you don't feel too much different. But you are learning to behave in a manly environment. And I can tell you, when I started in high-tech, there were almost no women. Nevertheless, yes, it meant that you need to be stronger. Yes, it meant that you needed to be a little pushing the way you present your achievements. And you learn to do networking, and networking is wonderful. Look what we have created here, because we are all networked. We call it the Greek element, but look at what we have created here because we have this networking. So we need to teach them to do networking, the skills that enable them to lead, to do networking, to publish themselves, to put themselves on the front, and most of all, and this is something that leads me all my life in my career, which again varied from my PhD, and then and then to research, and then to high tech, and then back to academia. I was always different because I was multidisciplinary, and people didn't know how to treat me because I was a scientist, but I'm also coming from linguistics, but I know computers and I work in industry. So how do you digest all of that? It's very confusing. Okay, it's even influencing my advancement in my academic life. Nevertheless, one lesson that I always tell to all my students, female and non-female, you have to pursue your love. You have to pursue your dreams, the things that make you passionate. If you find your passion, then it's easier to become a leader. It is easier to dismiss all those who are jealous of you, or those who are not flattering you, or those who are not voting or routing for you, because you believe in what you do. And I think that this passion that always was with me is what enabled me to achieve my PhD in New York in times where not many Israelis went out and did that, and be very few numbers of women in high tech and so forth, because I was convinced that what I'm doing is something that makes me happy. So this is something we need to create in the academic environment. We need to create this passion and show them, we are the example, to show them, the students. And again, I know we are here to empower women, but I'm saying this in general, to empower our students to follow their passion. And so by that, we lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you. This was the Israeli element, very passionate and, you know, very dynamic. So thank you very much, Nava. Now let's move to Slovenia, to Professor Belzer, to discuss with us proposals to academic institutions to facilitate the career of a female scientist. The floor is yours, Tatiana.
Thank you, Kostas. We have heard a lot of great stories, a lot of great experiences, and I'm also following chat where the very important comments from the participants are also coming in, but let's have first my point of view to this second question. I will go a little bit back to my history because of that I skip it at the beginning by introduction, not to repeat twice. When I got the invitation to become a young researcher in the laboratory of electronics on the day of defending my bachelor, it was like the dreams are going true for me. And actually, I was the only female engineer at that time at our Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. We were not at that time the independent faculty as we are today. And then slowly the women's came in after me, actually at least one each year. So this was looking at that time as quite good, and we were pretty much optimistic. But after 2 years, I left academia for being less than 1 year in industry. But anyway, I went to the industry, and for me, it was a culture shock. It was a gender shock. Already on the first day, unfortunately, came so out that I have to visit the medical doctor, and I have to ask for permission to see that medical doctor. And on the way to go out of the company, so the factory with the fan, with somebody leaving you in and out, I have to pass 5 men. And in general, everyone comment to me, "Oh, such a young girl, can I help you to improve your health?" So better not to go further in that way. But this was really a shock for me. I was crying the whole way to the car where my future husband was waiting for me and bring me to this medical doctor and to all those things. So why I went back between this academia and industry, because we have still different words in where we are trying to coming through with our energy, with our knowledge, with our support. Yes, there is a lot of change, but on the other side, sometimes I have the feeling that we made a step back. There was a period, I'm coming from Slovenia, so the former Yugoslavia, where the 8th of March was celebrating huge, actually. It was not the state holiday, but anyway, there were a lot of celebrations, a lot of events and so on. And later on, it was like very shy to say, oh, it's 8th of March. It is a Women's Day. It is the World Women's Day. But in the last years, those days are coming back and supporting and making clear to both genders that we are two and that we need the balance in some way to be successful. but that this balance need on the female way a bit more of support. For that reason, it would be great if our academia would think in the way to have special grants inside the university for students, for young students and for girls to start to make their own small projects, to build their own small teams and give the opportunity to start to research. Because limitation of funds is quite often a big, huge barrier over which is hard to go. And we have heard that evaluators usually evaluate our work on the different way, as maybe in the case if we have to deal with the men's work. The other thing is recognition. We are recognized on some way, too often also according to the rules, because a percentage of female must be a member of the parliaments in different countries. So this is really what is sad, that we have to get some positions because it's a rule or it is a law obligation. So recognition is very important. And sometimes I have the feeling that we've forgotten on that our work should be recognized and that we take care about the self-promotion that was already mentioned today. We are usually not saying like, oh, I got now the project and we will start a new work and so on. So might be we're already working few months or something, and then we are coming and saying, yeah, I have this project, I'm working on that. And I'm not going in the weight, we are the guilty one side. But it is like normal for us. If the men are getting the projects, we are getting the projects, and we are doing and living in this gender balance in some way. And for that reason, then recognition is disappearing, because everyone believes that, yeah, everyone knows this, or yes, we are happy for you. But sometimes it's really needed to say this with the names and with the words, what all this means for the community in which we are living. Equality of genders is present, should be present. It's even obligatory, and in the Horizon Europe, I believe that from the January 2022, all applications has to show the gender equality in the project or importance of the genders in our work. Good, positive, but again, it's the rule that might be many would just follow in the way. We have to get the points, we have to fulfill the conditions, but not will really leave this. So I hope that inside our communities, inside academia, inside universities, we will soon start to have a look and additional support to young girls and researchers to support them. What we are doing and in what we were involved in the last years, just in one sentence, I will probably go then later to this, a project, a program. We will be engineers and engineers. So engineer females and engineer males, with which we are going to the secondary schools and even to the lower level to introduce the STEAM fields and natural sciences to young girls and women. And such an approach brought me to the place where I am today, because when I was in the primary school or secondary school invited us and promote math And as I mentioned at the beginning, so my way started. So much for this question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. And let's move to the panelists regarding this question. Anne from the University of Orleans.
Yeah, I'll keep it short, but I wanted to start also with the students. I think that's a great idea. And Tatiana just described to us a situation where, well, she wasn't a student, but a young graduate and working in industry, and, you know, very graphic how she passed this row of men and everybody made comments. Another said, we need to lower the stress levels for students. And I just wanted to follow on to that and say that it's incredibly important for undergraduate students. It's not a pleasant topic, but well, to start with at another point, there are power relations at universities, and we need the support of our superiors to get on. I mean, they've got the power to block somebody's career progression, unfortunately. So harassment does exist, bullying does exist, and it's incredibly important to have a structure in each higher education institution where students, male and female, can go in feeling safe and in confidentiality complain about behavior that they feel uncomfortable with. And it's possible to we set something up a couple of years ago in Orleans. It's of course, people are afraid of abuse. You know, you can unfairly accuse somebody who actually is completely innocent and destroy a male researcher's career like that, of course. But in reality, it probably doesn't happen so often. And it's so much more important, I think, to have this place where people can just talk, and they're being guided through the process, and neutral people evaluate what really happened, how to describe it. Was it harassment or not, and so on. Well, from my personal experience, actually, well, now this becomes more commonplace, but so I started in Germany, as I said, as a student, and it happened that there was a professor who actually created this ambiguous situations with some female students, of whom I was one. Actually, we found out 20 years later that there was just a series of, you know, in a reunion of former alumni, that there was actually a series of students in the same situation, everyone too ashamed to talk about it at the moment, and nothing physical, just ambiguous situations, and invitations and presents and compliments, and you feel so helpless when there isn't anybody you can talk to, because there's only that person and he blocks the access to anyone else. And later on in Cambridge, actually just knowing that there was somebody was introduced to us just in the first week, and just knowing that there's somebody I can go to if I feel uncomfortable, or if anyone feels uncomfortable, and again, this can also be a male problem, it just makes a lot of difference. It lowers the stress levels, and if that doesn't exist, I think it has to be set up. The other thing is, well, that's moving up to the researcher level. It's important to have honest statistics, and then about how many male, how many female researchers at what career level and so on you have, and then set targets. I think Monica said something like that. So have targets for the next year, for the next 5 years, and so on, to slowly increase the level or decrease it where necessary. There also needs to be in our institutions one person that is identified as an equality coordinator or something like that. Somebody in the governance, somebody who takes that in charge, who's responsible for progress and inequality, and just showing that this is something the institution cares about, and then perhaps having annual statistics, annual targets, and so on, making reports and so on. I already mentioned career development. So we have to measure productivity in different ways. I think it can't only be research output. In the pandemic, perhaps we are going to talk about that later, it actually became obvious. Nature had a paper on that in May already, that women submitted less papers. So the female productivity went down, and that's probably also because women in higher education institutions have more teaching, and moving teaching online is very complicated. It's a lot of extra work. As others said, more admin responsibilities, because we are being nice and we do it and we don't say no and so on. So right, and homeschooling and for the mothers and so on. So teaching has to be taken into account. Responsibilities have to be taken into account for career advancement, and that test and for getting sabbaticals and so on. It can't all be the impact factor and the list of publications. And then one last thing is perhaps also to learn from others and learn from the best. There's a document called the Athena Charter. It's not from our European university, but it's a charter that's embraced by lots of universities in the UK and in Ireland. And there are lots of good practices for gender equality that you can find actually there, just looking at the website, like mentoring programs, not just for undergraduate students, but even later in the career, putting matching mentors and mentees, perhaps special training programs for leadership capacities, for management skills and so on for women, just to push them, as Nava said, into leadership roles. So that's about all I wanted to say for.
Thank you very much, Anne. All our panelists, they have, it's nice because all our panelists, they have proposed something different. And this is nice, keeping the question as a teacher. I'm keeping also the suggestion from Nava to involve, and make the female students to realize their leading role within the classroom, with leading projects, and also to introduce through new courses for leadership training of our female students and colleagues. I like the idea how to train our women to behave within industry and within the academia. Also, the dream should fuel our plans and against any difficulties. And also I like the idea to keep statistics regarding the female participation within a university, and also set up targets, let's say in a 5 years time, how the university should be involved in order to include more and engage more females within our actions, not only administration, but also scientific actions. Let's move now to question 3. I think that we're becoming a little bit idealists regarding question 3, like suggestions to governments to facilitate the career of a female scientist. And the question will be referred now, starting from the north, to Evangelia Triandafylou from Aalborg, and also to Professor Katerina Hadjaki from Greece. So Evangelia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kostas. Yes. It's a bit difficult, as you said, or maybe realistic to propose things for governments. But here I would like to contribute with my own experience, because I think it's helpful. I have been lucky to both, being pregnant and having kids in Greece and in Denmark. I think in the level of laws, both countries, I think Denmark is one of the few countries actually where women are considered equal by law, in all terms. I think there are very few countries actually in the world where this happens right now. So there's still some work to be done. But I remember, for instance, when I, as I said, quit my PhD and came back to Greece, and I wanted, a career also in academia. I wanted to continue. So when I tried to do that, that meant that My salary was reduced while being pregnant because my supervisor at that time thought that I was not as active as he would expected me to be. I also was forced to work until 1 week before giving birth. And then I was called to return back to my job 4 weeks after giving birth, where this was the point where I decided that I don't want to go back. And so for me, that was, a clear message that I had to choose. Yes, if I wanted to have children and be able to see these children, because also working there meant long working days, like 10 hours per day by default. So I thought, now I have to take a break and devote myself to something that I consider important. And I don't know if this by law, it's okay, maybe it's not, but I think one thing is to have the laws, and another thing is to apply the laws. And I think people from Greece know exactly what I mean. There can be a gap there. Later, when my first child was older, when I tried to return back to this field, actually, because it was also a small city, people told me that I wanted a very, they said I wanted a public servant position. So it was difficult to come back because the choice I made was haunting me a bit. Anyhow, fast forward some years, I gave birth to my son here, for the fourth of my child, and here, for instance, women get and parents, so fathers and mothers get 32 weeks of paternity leave. And that's after 18 weeks of maternity leave, which is devoted only to the mother. So the mother has 18 weeks, and then the parents can share these 32 weeks. And 10 weeks have to be taken by the father, otherwise they are lost. So in total, parents have 52 weeks, when a child is born. And I think that's one first important step. Of course, being in academia, but also in the private sector, does not mean that if you are away for 52 weeks, let's say that the mother takes all of it, or 42 weeks, that will be good for your career. Because of course, as also Anne mentioned, in academia, you're always, you're measured, your career is measured and qualified with publications, with impact factors, with number of projects, etc. So it's difficult, and also there have been cases even here where women actually lost their positions, or they were downgraded, while being on maternity leave. So I think that there is still some work to be done, even in countries as Denmark. I think, because I think, for instance, in Denmark, it has been shown that 70% of the paternity leave is still taken by women. So we have to accept the fact, and also the fact that some things, come more natural to women than men. And I think men, maybe in a statistical, in a survey done, they said that 60% of men were willing to sacrifice, to work a lot, like 60 hours per week, and sacrifice family for becoming a leader, while the same, only 40% of women were willing to do that. So I think it's a matter also of accepting the fact, and for the people who are responsible of recruiting and promoting women, to take this into account when they look at their CVs and their evaluations, because there has to be a place for all. And I think that the inclusion and the diversity will only improve the situation. So I think that was my 5 cents, I guess, in the subject.
Thank you very much, Evangelia. And let's move to Katerina.
So indeed, Evangelia has a very, very good position to speak about this because she has experienced different countries and different situations. I believe that we are now in a quite mature stage of our discussion, and we have a clear idea that we have three areas that we can work on. One is prejudice. The second is try to balance between family and work. And the third is harassment. And I'm surprised that harassment hasn't come up into the discussion too much. Anne has mentioned it quite a lot, but I think, at least in Greece now, is a very hot topic. We have to speak more about it. Although I identify with all the panelists about lots of things that I have heard, and we all have anecdotes in our careers that are very, very strong to open up these questions and these things that we have to face. We obviously have to do different work in each country and different suggestions to the government, since this is the question that we have to address now, because things are very different even between European countries, even between countries in the EU. And I come straight away into that. I like to think and talk in bullet points. So I have made some notes. First of all, in Greece, there's no fixed female representation in faculty boards, in faculties, in scientific subjects, in decision-making, and in administrative boards. There isn't. So, where I work, in the University of Democritus in Thrace, the faculty members are 72% male, and the full professors are 21%. 1 out of 5 is woman, is a female. The rectors are 15% male, nearly 1 out of 10. The deans are 16% female, 1+ out of 10. So there is a pyramid phenomenon. If you go to the labs, there's all women working on the bench. And when we go to the offices or in the boards, they're all male. There's a pyramid. So there's a drop off in it, as it was very well described previously. We have to be careful. There is a chance that if we have to have fixed representation percentages, this might go against meritocracy, and there are some traps there, as people before said, that maybe if there are only a few women in some boards, they have to do all the work. It's very common when it comes to mixed gender small groups, women do all the work. Still, it has to be introduced into the Greek culture. Right now, there's no discussion on it. I very often find myself into decision-making bodies or into scientific groups that I'm the only woman, very often. Also, this is something that it's not just the mentality of the men, this old boys club. It's also the mentality of women that promote it. I will go on and say an anecdote. In the Society of Pharmacology, in fact, we were electing the board, the committee, the leading committee of and we kind of discussed to promote women, so to vote for women. So a friend of mine came and said, vote for the woman. So I voted for the woman. I strongly believe that this woman would be very good. So she got the biggest number of votes. And then when it came for who was going to be the president of the committee, she backed off and let the male colleague that had a lot less votes to become the president. Also, another experience that I had that I must share with you, it was one of the worst moments in my career, is again in a conference. I was invited speaker. All the other invited speakers were male. So we went there, we talked, we presented, and then we came off. And it was the time to finish and take the picture of the conference. And I was given the camera to take the picture of all the male presenters, and nobody thought about maybe I would have to go up there and be in the picture, in the.
But what did you do? What did you do?
Nothing.
You took the picture.
I took the picture and said nothing.
Ella.
Nah.
Nah.
So fixed female representation. That's one thing. We will talk when later, when we speak about what we advise, we will talk about breaking prejudice into our heads too. Also about harassment, how harassment makes you freeze and you don't know what to do. You freeze in harassment. This has to change, but we will talk later about it. So that's first point. Second point, social welfare net. I hear you, I heard what is happening in other countries. I have to tell you that parenting leave in Greek academia is not for granted. You take 4 months if you want to give birth. And then in order to take the next 9 months, in order to bring your baby up, when there is no support from the government, like kindergarten or anything for that age, you have to apply to the faculty. And if the needs of the faculty allow it, then you can take the 9 months. Otherwise, you cannot. 2 months after giving birth, you have to go back and start working again. So I think we have the opportunity, as we have a female Minister of Health, of Education right now, to address that. And maybe Costa, at the end of this meeting today, we have to write down a letter.
This is what I'm going to do.
Because it's okay to share feelings, but we have to take actions.
No. This is what I'm going to do. And also my colleague Cleo, we are keeping notes in order to make a press release regarding the things that we can do. And, you know, this press release will go to the government.
In Greece, where one of the biggest problems right now is the low rate of birth, we in academia, that we are supposedly the most clever people. I don't really believe that, but anyway, we are not allowed to have kids. We are not supported to have kids. We are not expected to have kids. So this needs to be said, something promoting, helping women in academia to also go on with their families. Number 3, invest money campaigns, award media, award actions that promote gender equality, promote breaking prejudice, promote upversing the pyramid in academia. Ban the bimbo Barbie role model and bring into the surface those women that give role models to the students and to the younger people. Number 4, do not make committees. At least in Greece, this is very crucial. Committees do not work. Think very carefully about the type of structures that will really help people that get harassment. I don't know if there's anybody here today, female, that hasn't got a story to say about harassment at work. Either mobbing or sexual harassment. We all have stories, not said, stories that haven't been said. Right now, I don't know if you know, the Me Too movement in Greece is at its peak. Still not in about the universities and in the academia, in other areas of professional life. So we have to think very carefully about how this structure is gonna be implemented so that it works, so that people dare to go and speak anonymously through some platform. I don't know, somebody that is more professional into psychology and to public things has to design that in a way. They have, we have recently formed committees in the universities in Greece, very recently. I can tell you they don't work. Making a committee is diluting responsibility, which never comes to penalties, never comes to really prevent people from going on into harassment. This brings me to number 5, education. Last but not least, education. Education, probably you don't know that in Greece, in the high school, we don't have any education whatsoever about sexual harassment, about women empowerment, nothing. Sexual education has to go into the secondary education levels, and I strongly believe that informing and educating people can change completely the way things are done. Sexual harassment and mobbing have some certain practices, and if people know about it, they will be more prepared to face it. There are certain points. I personally talk to these people here and tell them things that I learned through reading books, because nobody ever taught me, and of course through experience and by revisiting my experiences, my things that happened to me in the past, thinking and working on what I have done right and what I have done wrong. As Nava said, because before I took the picture and did nothing. What should I have done? Think again about what you have done wrong and think again how you could have done this better. And when it comes to harassment, this is very, very strong. So education to both male and female young people, because it takes two to tango. So, this is all I had to say about this particular question. And I strongly propose, I strongly feel that at the end, maybe some of us will need to help Kostas to write down a letter and address it to the government.
Thank you very much, Katerina, and it's definitely we are going to do in the case, or at least in the case of the HMU. So I kept some notes. Keep the rights of a female scientist even during the pregnancy period, like have and apply the laws about the harassment. I suspect that we should do a lot of things and not committing in committees. And also I will say that one of the suggestions, it will be the fixed representation of females within the different decision makers and within the faculties, and etc.
Costas, can I say just very,
please,
two words?
Please.
Okay, you asked a question, I want to answer you. What would I have done, or what I would have given an advice about the picture? I would make a joke. I found that humor is the thing that helped me to go through harassment. I was never, how do you say, I never was demoted, or in terms of professional terms, never in my life. In terms of harassment, every day of my professional life. The way I dealt with that was humor. So if I was in you, I would say, oh no, I want to be in the picture. And I would not, and I would go and, you know, that's what I would do. So I would use humor to solve this kind of problems. Of course, if it gets serious and all that, of course, you have ways to treat it. And every institution has to have a unit that is responsible for sexual harassment or other harassment. But meanwhile, in the little things, I find not to surrender, to use humor, to use, you know, other kind of tricky ways to get out of situation, but not to surrender.
This obviously was not a harassment anecdote. I have lots of harassment anecdotes for you if you want them. This is an anecdote for the old boys club.
Again, but if you don't want to
in my scientific area is very, very strong, very strong. I'm short, you cannot see me through this. I'm small, and I'm, again, I said, I'm biologist. I'm usually younger than the other people there. So I have to face this every day in my life. The old boys club that I don't belong in, obviously.
Thank you. Let's move to, and then we are going to have time for discussion also with the attendees. Let's go to question number 4. What will be the advice to a female student interested in following an academic and professional career? And the question now, we have a lot of assigned panelists, but also a lot of volunteers that they would like to add, you know, their opinion among the panelists. So let's start with the assigned ones, and then we will move with the volunteers and among within our panelists that they would like to discuss their ideas. So let's start with, I was from north now to the south. Let's move now again from, let's mixed now. I'm not going to follow any geographical direction. So let's start with Ellen. With Ellen Moons, about the advice that you are going to give to your young daughter, because I know that you have a daughter and probably she would like to become a scientist or a professional. Like, what are you going to advise her, Ellen?
Yes, I think we've heard already quite a lot of nice advices from everyone. So I would like to raise a few of them, just keeping it short also. I think the most important is to believe in yourself and to be yourself, because that will strengthen you in difficult situations, as Nava made very clear. The second, choose your collaborators very carefully. Make sure that if you partner up with someone professionally, but also privately, actually, as Monica was pointing out, I agree with that fully. Make sure that this person also is going to support you, not only him or herself. Then the third one would be to take opportunities. Take especially those opportunities, be very selective in that. Take opportunities that build your merits. One such opportunity is, as you could hear from the panelists, it's to go abroad. Almost all of us have been abroad and collected international experience from different cultures and from different environments, industry, academia. So take the opportunities to build those merits, but say no to those tasks that are not important. We have to say no, because otherwise we will be overflowing with work. The fourth one would be build your network. It is extremely useful to have the network, to know who are the other women in my field. For me, this has helped a lot. Actually, at some point, I only knew the female scientists in my field and not the male in the beginning of being in Sweden. But this has helped me a lot, because in committees, when people are saying, yeah, but in my field, there are no women, then you can name them. It's usually not the case that there are no women. Build your network. So make your colleagues aware of gender issues, speak up, and yeah, get international experience. I already said that. And one specific thing I could say, if you haven't watched the movie Picture a Scientist, then I would really recommend you to watch it. Picture a Scientist. It's a very interesting movie where 3 female scientists are telling about their experiences. You can put it in the chat. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, that's me.
Thank you very much. Picture a Scientist. Okay, this is something that I will try to look at it and watch it tonight. So let's move to, thank you very much, Ellen, for the very useful tips that you provided, and it was nice that you combined also these tips based on what based on the previous prior discussion that we had. And then let's move now to Nava to tell us what she's going to say to a young female scientist that would like, a young female student that she would like to get involved in academia or in outside work.
So I think that my advice was, first of all, the world has changed, and we need to be adaptive to what is going on around us. So first of all, every person needs to define what it means to be successful for him, okay? And it's okay if someone chooses to have 4 children or to have 2 PhDs or to be a mentor or to be a housewife. For me, it's not important unless we are really following what we find our place. But if we talk about academic or industry careers, then today things have changed. It's no longer the case that we have a very defined profession. We need to have a toolbox and knowledge of a lot of areas and also of soft skills. So if we have that, the soft skills everybody mentioned of knowing how to interact, to have the social, the culture, to grow abroad, to know other cultures, okay? This is very important. We all come from different backgrounds. For myself, in Israel, you need to understand every boy and girl at 18, they go to the army. The army, regardless of ideological or political, it's nothing to do with that, but it's a wonderful melting pot for equality, because you are equal, you fight together, you do things together, you learn together. So just in terms of gender, it is a good thing, and it builds character in the terms of equality. So we need to, for us, it's a little different, but nevertheless, we are encountering all these phenomena that you mentioned. What do we do with that? The students have to have tools and agility, meaning we are in a world that changes in a minute, in a flip of a coin. We went to Corona, teaching digital, doing research with other people. But all of a sudden, the people who were agile and flexible, these are the ones who survived. So women have survival skills. Women are agile. Women are very fast to learn because they don't have a choice, and it's fine. This is our strengths. So we need to work on that. And we need to cooperate. Cooperation is very important, okay? And another thing, again, I'm sorry, but it is my agenda in terms of multidisciplinary communication, is not to know only what you have to know, but build a dialogue with other colleagues or with other students, male or females, that come from other area of expertise. Learn the lingo. We need to build a dialogue between designers and engineers, social scientists and computer scientists, okay? We need to build the lingo. And through this lingo, all of the differences, when they have to work in teams and when they have to build projects, what we need to transfer is the idea of you have missions to accomplish. If you work together, no matter where you come from or what this is the way to succeed. And I think through experience and showing them the way and giving them the tool of design thinking, of cooperation, of teamwork, we lower the stress, as we said, but we also lower the tension of the differences because they realize that each of them have something to contribute, even though it's a different thing. But then I do believe in a holistic view. So you mentioned how in academia people are alone. I don't feel that. I feel that whenever I'm alone, I'm looking for partners to work with. And I'm not afraid that they will be jealous or they will be competing with me. I believe that if we learn how to create teamwork, then people are voting for the same purpose and for the same mission. So I do believe in a toolbox for students and female students, but also male. Okay, together, very important that we meet in different places in life, not only when we've reached the peaks or only when we got to be a department head. From the beginning, it starts from early age to do things together. This is my opinion.
Thank you very much, Nava, for the messages. And let's move to Katerina, Professor Kadzaki, regarding this question.
Thank you, Kostas. Again, I have to say that it was a challenge to get myself prepared for today. It made me think a lot of things. It made me think about what I would like to say to my daughter for preparing her for the future. So it was, again, I'm gonna speak with bullet points. First, it can be done. I would say to my female younger colleagues that it can be done. To follow, to pursue a career in science and have a family and balance the two things and get things done. We can definitely do it. Most of us here today show that it can be done. Balancing family and career is not the difficult part, especially not in Greece. Having experience by working abroad, I realized that in Greece we might not have the support of the government, but we have a very strong family support. And this helps a lot and make things more, I wouldn't say easy, but maybe I would say easier. I have to say that the last 10 years since I had my babies, since I had my daughter, have been the most productive in my life and the most successful in my life. And I hope that my daughter won't have a different opinion in 10 years' time. I choose to become a role model for her and be the mother that show her the way to a successful professional life, rather than the mother that stays at home and being focused only to her and nothing else in her life. In Greece, we also have to fight against an orthodox culture and the opinion of many people that believe that working women has destroyed family structure and has destroyed society. There are lots of people that still believe that. So, number one, it can be done. Don't be afraid and don't listen to those voices like my mother's when I finished my PhD that told me that if you are a doctor, if you have a PhD degree, that's for sure that you are not going to have family. And I was close to prove her right, because I met my husband while quite advanced in my career, and I was quite old when I had my baby. So, number 2, be responsible about your work, be responsible about your image, build a very strong CV. This will increase your self-confidence, this will increase your position, and this will shut all those mouths that say, like somebody said before, that you go on because you are a woman. Have on paper that this is wrong. I often advise my people here behind me, when they are at work or when they appear, think about how they are dressed. I often tell them, because they are young people, to wear both a shirt and a skirt. So people like to see a really nice young body, a really nice sweet face to talk. But when it comes to hire people, they don't think about this. They think about how good you are at your work. So be good at your work, and don't give grounds for people to think otherwise. Number 3, fight against prejudice. Prejudice is our biggest enemy, even our own prejudice. When I said before that I am, if I tell you now that my husband is an academic and my stepfather was an academic, the first thing that will come to your mind, it's quite possible that is, oh, that's why she is also a professor. This is our own prejudice. This is not true for me at all. My father worked in a totally, completely different subject, and he was never interfering with my career. And I met my husband while already quite advanced in my career. So, fight stereotypes. Stereotypes are so strong, and they have so strong roots inside us. When I was first a professor, my first lecture in the university, I walked in, I had my notes, I went and stood in front of all the students, and they asked me when the professor is going to come. Fight stereotypes. Fight towards meritocracy. Believe in meritocracy and fight towards meritocracy, and this is something that we also need to put in that letter, Kostas. It's very important to get where you want to succeed because of your work and nothing else. Number 4, get informed today about sexual harassment and about mobbing. Read about techniques that consciously or subconsciously bullies do. And get advice or even learn techniques on how you will avoid it and how you are going to deal with it. There are some very precise descriptions and very obvious practices that people do. Learn to recognize them and learn the ways you can avoid them so that you don't go through this freezing of victimizing. When you become a victim, you freeze. You really don't know what to do. And bullers know how to succeed on that. Get out of that. Get informed. Read, learn, do something and be prepared. You are gonna see it. You're gonna find it in front of you. I'm moving into the next bullet. Be flexible, as was just said, and compromise in targets and in redirecting your path towards success. Do not compromise and do not tolerance prejudice, harassment, but don't make them stop you from what you want to do, from what you want to succeed. The most important thing in success is stamina. Stay there, stay strong and focused into what you want to do. Don't let all these obstacles that we're talking about here today stop you into anything. Believe in yourself, build a strong self-confidence, and stay focused on that. Stamina is a very powerful word. I was reading yesterday in the journal something from Katerina Sakellaropoulou. In Greece, we have our first female president. And this does prove that things are really changing in Greece. Yes. So I will quote something from her and finish. The most important thing is to be judged and go on according to our value. Thank you very much. I also made a suggestion about a very nice book that I read, and I put it in the comment.
Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez.
Invisible Women is the title of the book. Invisible Women.
Okay, so thank you very much, Katerina. And then let's move to the same question. I have a request from Professor Monica Lira that she would like to say something, and then to Anne, because also Anne de Luis would like to say something.
Thank you, Costa. I'm going to be very, very brief because I know it's not my time to talk, but I want to give 5 points that I usually give to young scientists. It can be for male and female, but usually I give it to female. Some of them are already being mentioned in a way from our past speakers. So, well, it's a summary probably. But these are my 5 points that I wanted somebody to tell me when I was young, okay? The first one is look for mentors, okay? Not only one mentor, look for several mentors, male and female, and compare opinions, okay? I had a mentor that misled me when I was young, and I didn't look for any other. I believed to that person. So look for several mentors, okay? The second one, and Katerina also says very nice things about this, is that don't be quiet, speak up. I mean, if you think something is unfair, talk about it, okay? Complain about it. And if they don't listen to you, I would recommend you to store information. I mean, if you can, you have to be able to demonstrate that the situation was unfair, okay? So you have to demonstrate with facts, with email, with letters, with whatever you can, you have to demonstrate, okay? If your career is very strong, you will even have more power if you do this, as Katerina already said, okay? If they don't listen to you now, store that information, because maybe in 5, 10, 20 years, you know, the Me Too movement, maybe we will be able to do something in 5, 10, 20 years. So be careful with this and complain. Don't shut up. Many women don't want to be uncomfortable or don't want to be a problematic person. That's why they don't complain. Please talk about it with respect and calm, but talk about it. The third point is, please be honest, okay? You have to be able to prove what you're saying, okay? If you lie or you mislead the information, we are all gonna lose. So be honest, always be honest, for fairness to us and also fairness to men. Point number 4, as Katerina also said, be informed about your rights, be informed, always be informed about the right to know your salary, problems with harassment, what are your opportunities, your right, your not right, to rights and what you can do about it. And what about disclosure information like health, religion, sexual orientation, all of that. I mean, all this confidential information, you have to be aware when you can use it, when you cannot use it, when your institution can use it against you or not, okay? Be aware, read a lot, ask a lot. And the last one for me is the most important, I think. Well, they are all important, but very important is to never give up, okay? It's important to be smart. It's very important to work very hard. But if you look at the people who are successful, are people who never give up, okay? And give up is not that you're always there, always there. Give up, don't give up also means to be proactive, organize, to be a leader, to organize activities for women, okay? This also is not giving up. Keep fighting for our rights, for what the type of environment you want for you and your future generations. And please, this is for women, because I hear a lot of women complaining. Stop complaining. If you have a problem, it's your problem. You have to find a way of resolving that problem, okay? And we say men do this and men do that. No, I mean, men have been there working outside for thousands of years, and they have built all this environment and in their way, the way is best for them, okay? So we have to now be there, okay? And we want to be inclusive in their world, okay? And we don't think that we are 50% of this world. We are 3.5 billion women in this world, okay? I think we are strong enough to make our own way of living, okay? On our own way of doing things. So we want something to do that way. Let's do it ourselves. Don't wait for them to change the way they do it to support us. No, think about that is a new world for us, and we are free to do whatever we want. Nobody's stopping us. So never give up and be proactive. And this was my last one. Thank you very much, Kostas.
Thank you very much, Monica. And let's go to Anne.
Yes, very quickly, because I know we're running out of time, and well, we could go on for hours. So much interesting advice. We should put that into writing as well, I think. I just add one thing, which would be to trust your instincts. Sometimes when you're given an opportunity, before that little voice sets in and says, I'm too young, I'm too junior, I'm not sure I can do this, people will judge me and all that. Some people have this voice inside their own head, and we need to reprogram ourselves. I think when you're given an opportunity, you know if you want to do it, and often you know what's best for you. And just trust that first intuition, and before saying yes and before saying no, because both are important sometimes. That's all.
Thank you very much, Anne. And let's move to the last question to our panelists. Before we discussed about what are our advice to female students. Let's go now to the final question. What are our advices to male students and male colleagues, how they should behave to female students or to female scientists and colleagues? So the question directs to Evangelia, Triandafylou, Tatiana, Belzer, and Monica Lira. So let's start with Evangelia.
Yes. As I said before, I think there's a need for a cultural change, both for men and women. For instance, there has been an initiative lately in Denmark, at least, about job descriptions and about calls. You know, when we advertise a position, for instance, at the university, we unconsciously, actually, when we describe, the qualifications we need and the tasks in the position, the upper you go in the hierarchy, the more masculine, let's say, qualities you will find. And that is something that a bias that it's done unconsciously, and we have to be very aware of it. So I would say that when we are writing, for males, but also for females, because that applies to both, or to all genders, let's say, let's not be binary. We have to be very careful about how we describe, and how we evaluate also the applicants. But first of all, how we describe, because many descriptions, it's like keeping away women even to apply, not even, to be recruited. I think also another thing is that many people also believe, and that was said also before, that successful leaders, skilled leaders are actually men. We have still these, stereotypes in mind, and there has to be done a lot of change. And I think the change has been done in younger ages. So all of us who have sons, we have to do our part and educate our sons to start with. I think also young students or junior academics, as fathers and as companions, they have to be supportive, and they have to be aware of the extra maybe effort that the women in their lives have to do in order to be successful. And also I would say for academics who are leaders or maybe managers, just to keep in mind that it's difficult to balance between real life and career for many women. I know that this is the case for men, so I don't want to be I want to be inclusive on that, but I think women have an extra burden also, as I said before, because of their nature, because of the choices that come a bit more natural to them. So yes, I think that was it from my side.
Thank you very much, Evangelia. And let's move to Tatiana, Professor Belzer.
Sorry, my fingers were a bit too slow to jump immediately in. Yes, what to say to young students?
I think that we have a problem with your audio, or it's only me. So,
can you hear me?
No, there is a lot of interference.
Then please move forward, and yes, I'm coming back.
Yes, this is what I'm going to do. So, Monica, the floor is yours.
Is it my turn?
Yes, please.
Okay. So for this part, I was thinking that there is a phrase that said, you cannot change what you are not aware of, okay? So that means that if we don't understand, or we are not aware that we are part of the problem from the beginning, we cannot modify it and change it, okay? So I think the first thing we have to realize, men and women, is that we think differently. We are different and we act differently, okay? There is this video in YouTube. It's like a comedy, but it's very true. And I talk to my husband about this. It's called A Tale of Two Brains. Okay, if you can listen to it. And it talks about the difference between male brain and woman brain. And they say male brain is made of boxes. Okay, and this box has a problem. Each box has one problem, and the boxes don't touch. Okay, and women are like connected by cables, okay? They're all cables and they are all connected together. We relate a lot of things at the same time, and men don't do that. And especially men have one box that is called the nothing box. I won't get into, that is very interesting, because when you ask, they say, when you are just your husband or your partner, what are you doing? And they say nothing, it's because they are in their nothing box. This, like, my husband loved this, because this, every time they tell me, hey, I'm in my nothing box, okay? It's very interesting. You can listen that video. It's nice to think a little bit about it. So with this in mind, what I hear the most from men is that I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know that I am doing wrong to you. I don't understand the bad part. Explain it to me, okay? And what I see is, for example, that when not only men, but in general, when somebody sees somebody that seems to be a weak in character, they try to lead that person, okay? And they try to do what they want, men, for example. So what I will say to men is that that when you act with a woman, when you behave and you don't understand what happened, ask first, will I behave this way the same if that person was a woman? I'm sorry, was a man? If that person was my male colleague, would I act the same way? And the answer most of the time is no, they act differently to us. So try to act the same way with us than you act with a man at work, for example. And try to give a chance to women, try to give opportunities. We usually, leaders don't have to be as aggressive as some men are, and they are very good leaders. Somebody mentioned that during this pandemic, women there did a lot of very nice work with leading these companies and countries, etc. So that's my only comment. To give a chance, try to look at us as if we were male, to see if the way you act towards us changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. And I will say particularly in Greece and within the Greek families, like, I mean, to make both of the kids, like if they are males and females, that they have the same capacity and the same strengths. Don't say, you know, like, oh, my boy has a girlfriend, or my daughter should not have any boyfriend. I mean, this is an attitude comes from the culture. So probably we should correct this kind of attitude from the family.
I have very good colleagues that are very good co-workers that are very nice, and they always support women, and they are very equal, and they tell everybody they are this way, you know, very modern, open mind, and they have done very weird things that you say that is not correct the way you are behaving with this other lady. So just do this exercise. Think if you will behave the same way with a man and with a woman, and I will tell you a little bit about this thing that we have in our head that we don't realize how it's called.
Unconscious.
Yes. So I think we have to think about it. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Monica. And let's go to Tatiana. Tatiana, within 3 minutes, please tell me what you will say to a male.
Yeah, I hope you hear me. This is the first.
No. I think that your audio has an issue. So I will say.
Can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Okay, very short. Look, I have to admit that I have a little problem with the phrasing of "look at us" or "think what you would."
Okay, go ahead, Nava.
I'm just saying, I think that I have a little problem of someone. I don't want to ask a man to talk to me like a man. I want to ask a man to talk to me as a person. I don't want to be discriminated for good or for bad. I want to have an equal opportunity in the discussion. So for me, this is a point that needs to come across. And I think it's done not by saying to someone, this is how you should do. I would call I would call the male students to say, get to know better your colleagues, your female colleagues, get to know them better, learn what they can do for you that you cannot do for yourself, or how you can help them that they can do. I don't think we are the same. You already said we are not the same, but I think that working together completes us. So I'm not looking for my twin. I'm looking for the person who I can leverage with him. So 1 and 1 is 3. This is what I'm looking for. So I don't want to be treated like a man. No way. Thank you very much. I'm 100% woman, and I'm proud of it. But I want to be treated as a colleague, as someone who has capacities, maybe different. It's okay. Maybe different. Maybe even my compassion is something that you can use for the project. It's fine, okay? Maybe my tolerance is something that you can use for the benefit of the success. It's fine, as long as I feel that I am contributing as much as you do, and we are both have the same meaning. So it's not by talking to someone and convincing him and giving him a set of rules, it's by letting him experience with you how much he's worth and how much you are worth in the combination, in a situation, in project-based learning, in things that you have in common, in missions that you need to complete, in papers that you need to write. This is how, through experience, to actual doing, this is how we will educate. To me, it seems like that.
Thank you, Nava. I totally agree with you. Let's check if Tatiana
Is now working?
No. Unfortunately, I mean, does not work well. Let's so I suggest to move before the Q&A session starts, and then I probably, during the Q&A session, if Tatiana has fixed up her connection, we would like first of all to thank Professor Munch for her participation. Unfortunately, she has to leave to pick up her daughter from the school. So thank you very much, Ellen, for your contribution.
Thank you all very much. It was very exciting to be with you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Ellen. And let's move to Lorraine Scott. So I hope that Lorraine Scott he's with us. He is with us. It's the male. He's going to present us the gender equality unit that they run in UCM in Madrid, and I hope that he will share with us how does this unit operate within their institution in order to facilitate and address all these kind of issues that you have mentioned. And then we will move to the Q&A session. So I think that Lorraine will present us, within 10 minutes, his unit. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Costa, for the invitation to participate in this event. All the intervention has been extremely interesting. And now we will be make a brief introduction of our gender unit. But let me begin describing our university, the Universidad Complutense. We are an old university with a long history, founded in the early 16th century, and we can be considered as a large university, a big university. Is the biggest university in Spain. We have more than 81,000 students, more than 6,000 professors and research staff, and more than 3,000 student and service staff. We have more than 300 official program studies, undergraduate and postgraduate, including 57 PhD programs, and 350 non-official training programs. We have 26 schools or faculty and 180 departments. In total, we have more than 250 centers that are divided into campus in the city of Madrid, and we are in a ranked between the top 200 or 300 university at the world level, depending on the index you use. In Spain, in a national level, we are in the third or fourth position in the ranking. And how is this governed? It's difficult. It's a big university. The head of the university is the rector, and the rector is assisted by the management board, which includes the 12 vice-rectors with specific competencies. We have vice-rector for academic affairs, economic policy, studies, and so on. And also, the rector has delegators that address a number of transversal competencies, including the diversity and inclusion, and our delegation of gender equality. The structure of the rector delegation is confirmed by the delegate Isabel Tajahuerce the director of the Equality Gender Unit, Magdalena Suarez, and myself coordinating the Observatory for Gender Equality. There are little more. There are little more. Only 3 persons with the assistance of administrative staff, but fortunately we have the help of many colleges, of many students. We are committed with the objective of the Equality Delegation and collaborate with us and with our actions. In the Complutense University, there is a feminist tradition that has tried to achieve equal opportunities and equal treatment in our university, but it was actually in 2011 when the Equality Unit was formally created. The observatory has been created very recently, just 3 weeks ago. And our main objective, I think, is to build a culture for equal treatment, equal opportunities between women and men. And the whole set of measures and actions carried by the Equality Delegation could be summarized in the elaboration of the Equality Plan or the Equality Program, which is the guide of actions that the university should implement to achieve the objective of equal opportunities and equal treatment between men and women in the university. In fact, the Gender Equality Unit already elaborated a first equality plan in the year 2015, and just now we are discussing the second equality plan. The main elements of this equality plan are 3. First, to monitor the situation of women in the university, monitoring the representation of women students and staff in the different areas of knowledge, in the promotion and in the academic governance. Second, a diagnosis of the monitoring situation, a diagnosis that must find the elements that cause the unequal treatment or the unequal opportunities. This diagnostic made possible to design measures to improve equality, which is precisely the third axis of the equality plan, the proposal of action, of measures to improve equality opportunities and to eradicate discrimination against women. Let me make a brief comment regarding each of these steps. Beginning with the monitoring of the situation, we are now working to make info about wage gender gap. We have not information now, but we can present some results about the teaching and research staff. I don't want to present now participation in the study because I want to center our attention about women in teaching and research staff. And almost 50% of teaching and research staff are females in our university. But there are important differences when we analyze categories. We can use the representation index to see which categories are female-dominated and which one are male-dominated. And we can see that the full professor is the category clear male-dominated. And perhaps the reasons that in the 60% of deans are males of our schools, of our faculties. The rest of categories is gender integrated. There is no gender domination. The category of full professor is the highest in the hierarchy and the one that take the long time to reach. Here we have a clear position of inequality, and when we look for the data of participation of women according to the age group, we observe that the younger groups are feminized or female dominated. The younger are women. The older age groups are clearly masculine or male dominated. Also, an important data is when we analyze the presence of women according to the area of knowledge. Important differences appear. The most feminism, the more female-dominated area are pharmacy, social work, nursing, psychology, and education. And the most male-dominated areas are computer science, philosophy, physical science, and mathematical science. It should be noted that our university does not have engineering or architectural studies, and therefore these areas do not appear inside this table. But it is clear that the data show that the presence of women in STEAM areas is also very, very short. Then, with the data, what is the diagnosis of the situation of women that we can make? Spanish society. The university is inside the Spanish society, and the Spanish society is a society dominated by traditional social stereotypes. And we believe that the data we observe in our university is in some way explained by these stereotypes. For example, stereotype of gender essentialism that reduces women's natural capacity to do science, or that stereotype, the social gender role that explains that the lack of co-responsibility of men for the care of children and the care of other dependents. All these social, traditional stereotypes explain implicit or explicit discrimination of women. For example, in the evaluation of female candidates as compared to male candidates in the recruitment processes. These stereotypes also tend to make the woman invisible in a science, thus reinforcing the lack of a role model for young girls in order to choose STEAM studies. The battle against inequality, against woman discrimination in science, we are convinced that this is a fundamental battle against these traditional stereotypes. Because no. Women are not, by their biological sex, worse qualified to do science than men. Gender roles are a social construction, so the action to improve equality, the measures that we can carry out within the equality plan in our university have the orientation and try to promote the culture of equal opportunity, the equal treatment, to change, to break with these traditional stereotypes. And the main access, the main active actions are in this sense. As I have said, to break down this androcentric stereotype, it is necessary to promote the cultural equality among the university community, all the university community. It's necessary to make visible the role of women in the university, in all the academic and science fields. An important for the unit has been the training programs to re-educate our staff in teaching and research from gender perspective. The main objective of these training programs for our academics, male and female, is that we can all fall into this social stereotype against women. We all have to ask ourselves in our classes, in our research, if we are falling into the stereotypes, to eliminate them, of course, of our activity. Perhaps male, those of us who are in some kind privileged or favored by the established order, by those traditional social roles, do not see the need to change. And this is why this re-education is so important to make us to see the system of these stereotypes, these obstacles, these barriers that this situation of discrimination against women, that is essentially the gender perspective that we will try to introduce in our staff. We have developed some guides for a non-sexist use of language. This is an important thing in the Spanish language, because in the Spanish language we use male gender to refer to both men and women. And this is a question of invisibilizing the female, the woman, when we use only, and we talk only using male gender in our language. And we are developing guides for teaching and research from a gender perspective. More actions. The Unity has promoted research in gender studies as a recognized area of knowledge. We think that the gender equality is a transversal objective in all areas of science, but we think that it is necessary to recognize also the gender study as a specific area of knowledge. We develop equality policies in the recruitment and the access to the university staff, and also promotion and professional development of women. For example, imposing a gender quota in the composition of the tribunals or committees of selection of recruitment, or for example, promoting a culture of co-responsibility, encouraging the use of parental leave, and promoting effective measures of conciliation, work-life balance, not only for women, also for men. So the care activities of chairs and other dependents does not hinder the development of professional promotion of women. Other actions are centered in promote equality in all areas of representation, management, academic decision making, action to prevent, detect, and continue to eradicate gender violence and harassment. We have published a guide for the prevention of gender violence and actions in case of harassment against women. And also we have action to promote respect for sexual diversity and different gender identities. As I have already mentioned, we are currently dealing with all these measures in the second equality plan in the Complutense, which is about to be published and will be made available to anyone who wishes to consult it. We hope that this new equality will continue to improve gender equality and may us grow and improve the university and as such society. Most of the measures that has been included in this new gender plan has appeared here previously in the panel by the participants. We must that it's necessary to change little by little, or perhaps very quickly, those roles, those stereotypes that keep men above women in a situation of dominance, so that all people can achieve their life aspiration, can become what they want to become, and to live in the way they want to live, without a destiny marked by the biological set with which they were born. And that's all. For more information, please visit our website. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Lauren. I think that it was a good summary of the things that we can do based on the proposals that we have received from our panelists. On the Q&A session, probably I have some questions for you. So thanks all of you, and let's move directly to the Q&A session. Already we have some questions. They are not reported, or they are not referred to any one of you. So if you wish to answer a question, just raise your virtual hand, and I'm speaking now to the panelists and give an answer. So the first question that comes, it is the following: did it affect your personality working in a male-dominated workplace? How could we increase the number of female students in IT? So I think that Tatiana works in the IT. So I will report, if your audio is fixed, the questions: how could we increase the number of female students in IT? And then to Nava, because also Nava works in IT.
Hi, hello. Do you hear me? Oh, finally. actually, I put it all my thoughts that I could not told before in the chat. So might be you can read it there so that I'm not losing the time with some other things. But I would say that I agree with Nava very much. We have to be as we are, and we have to use the advantage of each other to make the world better on the base of equality, which is not the rule and which is not the law. What to do to have more ICT students? To start very early. I mean, to explain the stories, why the ICT is appropriate job also for girls and for women. To start in the primary school, not to start just a week before the students make a decision. I will just show what I put it also. There is a blog. We had a workshop 2 years ago in Rome, and we were speaking in the frame of Concordia project under Women in Cyber with young girls and students, and listening to their stories. And those stories were mostly, nobody support me. So they are looking also for teachers already in primary and secondary school who would support them, who would explain their parents that this is good, that this is the right way that they should go. And they were usually fighting by themselves to go further in this. So to do the workshops, to do the talks, to do the discussion tables and similar, and try to motivate them. But when they are once with us, we should not forget them. We should support them, give the mentorship additional, support them to be in action together with their colleagues, that they are not separate groups, but they are much better both together. So start early. Try to present everything as much as good, and mentoring at the end, and supporting and recognizing their work.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Then to Nava, if she has something else to add.
I agree with all the elements you said about how to encourage them, and also just to add one thing is to share success stories. Very important to share the success stories so they know from real women who, like we did today. I would like very much to answer the question, did it change me, affected me? Yes, indeed, it did. Made me more focused, okay? Made me very targeted. I had to learn to understand differences, okay, and to adapt to people who are different from me in thinking. And I learned how to talk differently a little bit for people to understand. So it was living, and I also had to make others see my points. So it was the agility that I talked about that made it possible for me to succeed in IT. And yes, you need to be good, but again, I have to make this point for everything we said today. You have a choice. Everybody, doesn't matter if you're female or male, you have a choice. You can choose how you want to conduct your life, okay? And you can choose how I am sorry, because people wrote to me, do you really have a choice? Yes, you do. You have a choice. Maybe you have compromises, but you have a choice. You can decide what you want to compromise for and how you want to conduct your life. And if we explain that to girls when they are young, it will be easier for them to pursue their career, their ambitions, their dreams.
Mm-hmm. And thank you very much, Nava. And yes, Ekaterini, please. Katerina. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Nava, and the rest of you. Also share failure stories and how you deal with them. This is very important. Also, if I want to comment, just to answer a little bit, if my career has changed me, I think experience and growing up change us all in a way, but the core of your personality does not change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katerina. I don't know if the rest of the panelists, they would like to make a very short comment if working with males and male-dominated ecosystems has affected your personality. Yes, please, Monica.
I mean, I always work with men, so yes, they have changed my personality, especially because, well, at least in Mexico, when I was young, they teach me not to be problematic, to be kind, to be etc. And I realized that I cannot be that. I mean, I have to complain of all these issues that I see during my career, okay? But I also believe that it's gonna be for a short period of time, okay? We are in this, like, if we are all scientists here, in this activation energy curve, okay? We have to complain, we have to work hard, we have to ask for our rights to be equal until there are no more female and male leaders. There will only be leaders, and we are all gonna be together. But it's gonna be, I hope, short period of time, and then everything is gonna be back to normal, I hope.
Thank you. Let's move to the second, and please, all the attendees, if you have a question and you would like directly to ask one of the panelists, please unmute your microphone and ask the question. Okay, thank you. So if I go to a second question that I can see on the chat. What is the part, and thank you very much, Cleo, for this. What is the part of the spouse when combining family with an academic career, especially when it means moving from one place to another? This is the question. What is the part of the spouse when combining family with an academic career, especially when it means moving from one place to another? I don't know if we have any volunteer to answer this. Evangelia, yes. Since you have changed a lot of places, starting from Thessaloniki, Eindhoven, and then now Copenhagen.
And Crete, of course. Don't forget
Crete is a paradise. So I'm not
yes. I think it was also mentioned before. I think, of course, I wouldn't have done even half of what I did of the small things I did so far if it was not for my husband. I think both, you know, when you're in a family, of course, every member has to support each other. So, and that's why my advice to male students was just to be supportive. I think this is where it all starts. Of course, we need the support of our families. If we are lacking, maybe we have also, you know, extended families to support, maybe not. But I think it's, yeah, it's important, and it goes both ways, of course. And we see here, for instance, many families choose, you know, a period of time where the father maybe or the husband, you know, has a lot of, you know, heavy workload. The mother steps back, and vice versa. So at least in Denmark, it's something that you know, the families choose to do, and I think there has to be room, of course, for everything. Yeah, that was, and I think, of course, moving to another country is a very demanding thing, especially where more people are involved and small kids are involved. So it just, you know, it adds to the workload. So what to say, it needs, you need a lot of patience, a lot of time, and yeah, just yeah, to resilience, just to keep going and don't give up.
Yes, Tatiana, yes, please, a short comment.
A very short comment that I would like to add in the way also that in Slovenia, the situation is similar in the Denmark, when there the women are going to maternal leave. And there are a few weeks, I don't know exactly, I'm married, but without the kids, but I have a lot of kids. These are all my students and all my younger colleagues in my group, so to say. if they are not, if the husband is not used that weeks, they cannot use it. So the wife cannot use it, or they must use it in the first months or first few months of the birth, because they cannot use the rest later on. And I agree with Evangelina with this support in the family, what I wrote already before, because I cannot imagine my work without my husband's support, especially now during the COVID, when he has less obligations and I'm the whole days in the meetings. And for that reason, we have to find everyone our place and support each other and going together on this way.
Mm-hmm. And thank you very much, Tatiana. This is very important message to all of us. So, I mean, a question that comes from one of the attendees, like, how can you fight? How much control can you have against these social perceptions? Society perceptions regarding females' role in a daily life and within the professional life. What is the opinion of Anne? Because everyone has until now has spoken.
But I could have said something about the spouse.
Okay,
but,
go ahead.
Okay, because the other question is more difficult. No, because especially when moving abroad, and there's been research on that, it's very difficult to synchronize the two careers. Let's say if it's an academic couple, it's really difficult to find an equivalent position for the other one, especially as most departments don't want to recruit a husband and a wife as a team. There are often guidelines against that. So if one person is stepping back, as Evangelia said, or making sacrifices, it's just very important to counterbalance that right afterwards and to acknowledge what happens, and in that way everything is fine. And as Alan said, it's so important to choose the right partner. Michelle Obama said something like that, which you're going to like, Kostas. It's like when you choose the members of your basketball team, you want the best, and you don't want somebody who in all trouble or something. Yeah.
In all teams, and we used to say in everything that we are doing, it takes a lot of effort to achieve something, and it takes just one to destroy everything. So picking up your partners, like in life or in professional life, it's so important, in sports as well. So thank you very much. And what about, I will go to Katerina, because Greek society has a lot of, let's say, perceptions, regarding the female's role. So I would like Katerina to tell me what the females they can do in order to shape a different opinion, not opinion, let's say position regarding females' role within academia and within professional life. What are you going to tell to your mother? Because I mean, I know your mother is very nice and very cute. I was not believing she was so.
I wouldn't dare think about changing my mother's point of view. So let's pick those that we can make a difference. And this is not one of them. Just do what we do. Just being what we are, and become an example. Become an example by the way we choose colleagues, the way we support meritocracy in our professional life, the way we achieve whatever we have to achieve. What we did here today is one step forward. This type of actions, I cannot think about something else. If you want me to comment on the spouse, as Anne said, that is to comment on it is an easier part. Not lots of men can support, can go on with a career wife, a career woman as a wife. I think few men can do it, and few men can support it. So I don't know if we choose or if they choose, how this happens, but for sure it is very, very important.
I think that we should.
And also the way you choose your nanny, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, we should be educated in order to behave and be supportive to our wives and our partners and our female students, better as men. So Nava would like to say something because
Very short, very short. Yeah, I will say something very short. First of all, Ekaterina, I also have a Greek mother. So I empathize with you. I know the whole story. But what she always told me is, and my mother is a Holocaust survivor from Greece. And what she always told me is there is nothing you cannot do. You can achieve everything. Although she wanted me to get married and I have a child and everything, but she also said to me, there's nothing you cannot do. And I took this sentence and I put it to my daughter, who is now 29 years old and has her own career, and not in science, but in design, but very successful. So yes, there is something in what we, it's this kind of education that we can make in our own yard, in our own backyard. So maybe we cannot change all the rules and all the prejudice and everything, but we can start from our own backyard. So that's what I did. And then I have my students. So I try to influence my students. And by that, I'm creating these circles around me and around other people. At the end, we all meet, but it takes time, but at least we do something. At least we start in the circle and we expand. So I do believe that we will expand more and more, and it's up to us to create these circles, these waves. So I've already started and it's going well. So this is my recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nava. And I have a question to Lauren. I was very much impressed by the statistics and the balance that you have achieved in all the fields of study within your university. And I would like to ask you, how many years did it take for you to achieve such a result? And how difficult was to establish such a unit within your university, and how collaborative is your governance with this gender balance unit? I mean, how much can affect the decisions in order to select a female professor and not a male one? I mean, can you give us more insight?
Okay, I have to say that our rector is a feminist man rector, is very feminist, and he has a board of management with equal proportion of male and female. Is when you go down, when you see that the full professors are dominated by male. Fortunately, in Spain, in the Complutense, we have a lot of information, a lot of data that is available for all of who want to make studies about gender participation. Of course, it's difficult to convince, to have the agreement of all the vice rectors, because not all the vice rectors have the same ideology to work for equality. It's difficult. The unit began in 2011, and I think Isabel Tajobuerce has made a lot of work of visibilization of the work of women. I think we need more role models that we can see natural to see full professor female or full professor woman. It has been established, for example, that in all the tribunals, all the committees for recruiting, there must be some quota of a male and male, some quota of male also.
And Lauren, I heard, during the discussions, and I was very much surprised, about harassment within universities. How do you deal such cases? Do you have the experience?
I don't have a direct experience because I have a little. I was working more in statistics, but we have the problem. We also have the problem, and the problem is that the women that suffer the hazard stay quiet, stay in silence. We offer the opportunity to help and to get together with the authorities, the police. We don't have any authority to only to help and to get together the woman, the students that suffer the hazard.
And what do you think that you are doing? I mean, if you have the cases, why, the females, they don't take the courage, not the courage, they are not boosting to come and find you and make, make known their stories? What is the problem what is the communication gap?
No, because it's a full professor, male, that is up, that is making the hazard. Then it's very difficult for the people is beside to go against your head, your boss, your full professor. We want to help them.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any plans to change the situation, like in order to help them also to facilitate, them to go and say their stories? What are you going to do?
For us, it's a very important question. It's a very important question, and we want to work in it. We have now the guide, but we have a lot of measures. We have a phone. You can phone and a telephone number. You can phone to us to make all the questions you have. And we try to solve the question to all the staff and all the students.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lauren. I don't know if you have any question, any other question, or to Lauren or from the audience to the participants. I think we have overcome the schedule a lot, but it was nice. For me, I learned a lot of stuff. I have realized a lot of stuff within my university, thanks to Cleo and other colleagues, when I was checking the female participation within our services, and I was very much surprised. It was a good opportunity for me, together with my colleagues in the university, to work out and change the situation. Thank you all of you, panelists, the attendees, for the honor that we had to have you with us, and it was a great pleasure. I think that Nuno would like to make the final comment regarding this session. And also Tatiana, but very fast, please.
Yes, very fast. Not really any closing speech, nothing like that. I just hope that, well, first of all, thank you very much for this very interesting morning. And I hope that, as we have discussed on one of the preparatory meetings, that this work does not end here, and that we manage to have a group of colleagues working on these subjects for the near future. Thank you very much.
And definitely us, as representatives of you, all of you, we are going to make, this kind of press release. I will share this press release, of course, with my Greek colleagues and also with you, that we are going to make it in English and in a Greek version in order to share some joint actions and comments. And finally, Tatiana, yes, please.
Thank you. I would like to thank Costa to you.
Not only Costa, there are a lot of people working behind. It's not Costa.
To you, your team, and everyone who was organizing the event, to all other panelists that we were coming together, because I believe this was also for us probably only a start, as already Nava by our first meeting mentioned. And I would like to point out once again what we discussed at that time already, that might be we should come together again, wrote down something, not just what you will prepare, but might be also to publish then something as a paper to share our experiences or however to deal. And I raised the hand first of all, because I would like to invite all of you already to the event that Costa mentioned at the beginning, and we are preparing it in Maryborg for April. So this year on April 22nd, it is the day of girls in ICT, and we will prepare a similar event which will be pointed out more on students, young girls, also the secondary school girls. In about a month or end of March, we will have a prepared scheme and basic informations, and we will share between all of you. And I will ask also the panelists to help us with some activities, and we'll come back to you with that. So we will have another opportunity besides the February 11, which was a day of women and girls in science. And don't forget, end of June, it's coming, I suppose, 23rd or something like that, the day of the women engineers, where we have again the opportunity to point out some of the things, just to send the message, not necessarily the event, but in April, Girls in ICT, we are going to organize activities and involve, as I said, young generation students and even younger from that. Thank you for the time that I got also for that.
Thank you very much, and I totally agree with Anne with the title and also the proposal to write a similar paper like this one that has been released back in 1990s. Probably we should work out on the tomorrow's meeting or on Wednesday's meeting along within the framework of Athena. I would like to give, I don't know where she is, Cleo Kutra, probably she should say something. She is the main motivator in Hellenic Mediterranean University, among other colleagues. I mean, I just know only Cleo because she works for the International Relations Office regarding the equality balance within the university, together with, of course, with Katerina Kadzaki here. We're very proud that we have Katerina within us. But Cleo, the floor is yours for the last closing message.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the inputs, all the ideas that will help the university of ours and Athena Consortium to build something new. I think the world needs a turning point. It is in a turning point. People everywhere understand and support the idea of the gender equality, mainly in words, I will say. We need to focus more that it is not just a women's issue, it's a human rights issue. And the floor also is for the men, and the invitation is for the men. And of course, to people of all genders, in standing solidarity with women and create a visible and united force for the gender equality. We all need to work for this initiative for each other and to give this back to our communities. Either is this the university or the communities that we born and live and get older, because it is an issue for all the people of all of ages. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cleo. Cleo is a professor in the social sciences. It's not just working for the International Relations Office. So I would like to thank you. I will have to close here and keep this information for the next meeting of the Athena in order to move on with the next target. We are going to work out on this document in order to release regarding in Greek and also in English as a fruitful result of our discussion. I would like to thank you, stay safe, and see you when I'll see you again on the next action that we are going to do, and it will follow more actions regarding female scientists and in general. So thank you, have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.